Georgia won by 2 touchdowns yesterday. Georgia beat Florida 34-20. It's a rivalry win, so that's wonderful, right? Well, first, let me tell you, I give this game 3 chali on the 1 to 5 scale. Entertaining to watch. I was listening to it on my drive to Pittsburgh last night. I don't get it. I do not get it with Georgia. I don't know what else to say. It's a rivalry win. You take it any way you can get it. I know all the cliches. They just seem so off. They seem so off. There's no mystery why. The quarterback gives the ball to the other team a whole lot. But it's the classic swinging door game. Guys, I think Florida was on their way to winning this game. I think Napier had them ready to go. And I think if that quarterback doesn't go down, if Lagway doesn't go down, I can't prove this, so who in the world knows? It's not worth anything. They may very well have been on their way to winning this game. And Georgia may have gutted it out. I don't know. But I would love to know, just for personal amusement, how does that game go if he doesn't get eliminated? Now, Lagway wasn't lighting the thing up in the first half. I know that. But when he went down, it felt like a matter of time until Georgia took the game over, and it was. But it's a weird spot following a win. And I have a very interesting relationship with the Georgia folks. The Georgia folks are thinking exactly what I'm about to say. They will get mad that I say it. Some of them will get mad I say it. But I'm going to say it anyway. So Carson Beck is not even close. He's not even close. Georgia has a standard, just like Clemson does, higher than Clemson. Georgia has a standard. They've got a way. They've got goals that they want to go about accomplishing, and they just can't do it right now because Carson Beck's not good enough. He's thrown 8 picks in his last 3 games. He threw another 3 yesterday. Should have been 4. Had a defender just drop a ball thrown right to him. They were good enough to win because Florida's not a good team and really not good without their backup quarterback who, man, my nose is just, oh, there we go. So I sit here in November and I know how good I've seen Carson Beck play in the past, which is good enough to win a national title, I thought. And he came back this year, and I remember being over there in the spring. And they were so emphatic, and I agreed with them. They said, you can talk about the recruiting class, you can talk about us landing a couple of guys out of the portal, but our biggest accomplishment was getting this guy to come back this year. And this is what we've got. I mean, immense regression to the point where you just throw your hands up and you say, what are we watching here? What are we watching? I keep waiting for the game to happen where he doesn't make any of those mistakes because I've seen it before. And maybe it'll get sprung on us. But by the time you get to November, you pretty much got what you got. And it's not like he's hurt. To this point, I don't know that he's hurt. Maybe he is, and we'll find out after the year. But he is their starting quarterback. And the performance level that he's playing at will not be good enough for them to win a national championship. And the only way to invert that statement is for him not to play like he's played, to invert that and to play at the level that I and many other people thought he was capable of playing. So I'll get back to Georgia in a second. They won the game. You don't ever take that for granted. I understand that. That's why I said it's a weird spot to be in because you got a team that wins a game, but because you know what the expectation level is for them down the road, you just find yourself saying, yeah, but. I give Billy Napier a ton of credit for having his team ready here. I don't know that it's going to matter. I had one Florida buddy text me yesterday and say Napier saved his job. I had about 9 more text me and say, don't you even dare say that on tomorrow night's show because it doesn't matter, he's done. Well, what that unscientific poll is evidence of is nothing more than most people already have their mind made up on Billy Napier. So, I think you can give the guy a ton of credit for having his team ready to play yesterday. They almost beat Tennessee a couple of 3 weeks ago. They've played better ball, but the real crime is it's irrelevant because they weren't ready out of the gate earlier in the season. Like now, Lagway's done, and so they'll go to Texas and they'll probably lose. They'll probably lose to LSU. They'll probably lose to Ole Miss, and then it'll be a moot point. And you can play the whole what-if game, and you can get credit for the Kentucky win, but you're Florida. And you're multiple years in, and so you're not going to get credit for moral victories. Nor should you. It's Florida. Yeah, nor should you. I don't make any bones about that. The real crime, as I said, was that Miami game. They weren't ready to be more competitive. That A&M game, they weren't ready to be more competitive, and both of those games were at home, and that digs you a hole where you've got to pull off a miracle in the back half of your season, And now your starting quarterback's been out. Now your backup's done. And so you don't get benefit of the doubt. I think minds are made up on this. I'm not spending a lot of time on it because I think minds are made up on that. But going back to Georgia for a second, I had Georgia as the number 1 team in the country last week. I'm not going to knock them all that far, if I knock them at all. I haven't. JP Poll hasn't run injuries yet. They may be my number 1 team in the country for all I know this week, which lets you know everything you need to know about the competitive balance of the top of the SEC. Oregon would be the best team in this conference right now. Point blank. I'd pick Oregon to win the SEC right now. Oregon's not in the SEC. Texas got pretty well owned by this Georgia team. So Texas is easily vulnerable. Georgia's looked very vulnerable. We've already seen Bama tote 2 losses. LSU toted 2, and they play Alabama this Saturday. Ole Miss, I've got to convince you guys they're not dead. I think Ole Miss is the most underrated team in the country, and Tennessee's just kind of there. Ho-hummed their way past Kentucky yesterday. You know they go to Georgia in a couple of weeks. That's 1. Oh, A&M, by the way. Sorry, didn't mention them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 teams here that have viable paths to winning the SEC championship. Not just making it there. Anybody who makes it to Atlanta can win it this year. They are going to tell you, oh, see there? See what the expanded playoffs done for us? What are you talking about? If we had the BCS model in place this year, the SEC would still look like this. And I only say that because someone texted me that today. Well, I guess you were wrong about the impact the expanded playoff was going to have on the sport. I said, provide your evidence, please. They said, look at the competitive balance. Look at the parity in the SEC. I said, what does the postseason model have to do with that? And they haven't replied yet. They left me on red. It's wide open, guys. It's wide open. You place your bets accordingly at FanDuel because it is wide open right now. Who will be in Atlanta first week of December? Who will be there? Georgia, do you understand? Georgia goes on the road this Saturday. They play Ole Miss. Georgia's favored by 2.5. That number dropped like a rock as soon as they posted it. And if Georgia loses that game, well, first off, then they got to play Tennessee. This is just a tougher schedule, man. It's a different kind of schedule than Georgia was used to playing. And the thing about the past few years' Georgia teams is even though it would be a tougher schedule, they'd be good enough to win anyway. It'd be tough for them. They'd win anyway. This year's Georgia team is not vintage Georgia. And so they may not be. They may not be good enough to do that. Time will tell. Georgia goes to Ole Miss Saturday. Then they got Tennessee. And then they're done with conference play. So we'll know Georgia's tail of the tape conference-wise by the 16th of November.